Yeah. Yeah, you can follow along, yeah, if you can. I mean, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it step by step. But the reason yeah, that's the reason I recorded too. So I come into the front screen of Revit. I click on Architectural Template, and then it opens up a new architectural template. And if you've installed the Danish educational template, you should get this as your first screen. If you don't get that, then we need to fix it later on today. Okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is go into level 1. You delete that text. And I'm going to start setting up these grids here. So pretty much everything you need to know for the first few weeks of lessons is contained within the architecture tab here. So this is where all the modeling tools are. So you got walls, doors, windows, and so forth. But you've also got the grids down here. You already made grids with Pia, yeah? So let's just do that again. I'm going to select grid line. And I'm just going to go and draw a grid like this. And I need to switch my snaps on there, I can see. Just wait a second. Okay, so let's go back and do that again. Grid. And draw a grid from here to here. And it's numbered 1. So then I can see that the grids are at 3.6 meters apart. So I can either select them and I can press copy, which is this button here. This little copy button here. And really what happens is that anytime you select anything within Revit, the menu at the top changes. So it changes to the context of what you're doing. So if I select this grid, we get all these little modification tools up here. So I can press copy, and I have the option just to copy one of them, but I can also select copy multiple, so I can just continue to copy them. It's a bit of a time saver. So I can just say, well, I want to select it from here to here. And you always get this notice down the bottom here. It asks you what your next move should be. What do you want to select? Or what it's saying here is click to enter move start point. So I'm going to click on the grid itself, and I'm going to move it straight across, and it's 3,600 millimeters. So first of all, I make sure that I keep it straight, and then I can just type in 3600, and it will create a grid, another grid line 3.6 meters across. So we have 6 grid lines. So I can just go ahead and do that again, 3600. And you can see that it actually numbers 3600. It actually numbers the grid lines based on how you've done it so far. So the important thing to remember is you need to keep it straight. If I do it this way and I type 3600, it's going to go off at an angle like that. So that's no good. So we'll undo that. And let's just copy it again, select it, click to enter start point, and move it across until we get to 3600. And there's 6 grid lines in all, so let's just put the last one in, 3600. Okay? Okay. So let's do the grid lines the other way, just to keep it going, because there's another method you can use that's shorter. So I can say grid. I'm going to put the first horizontal grid line in here, like that. Before I do anything else, I don't want it to be a number, because we want it to be able to locate these crossing points. So we need to be able to say A1, A2, B7, whatever, so we can locate building elements on these places. So I'm going to select, and I'm just going to change it to A. Now Revit should automatically letter the grid lines A, B, C, D, E once I do it. So I have the option to either copy it, like I just did, or I can use a tool called Array. And what Array does, if we let the little video load there, it just takes whatever objects you select, and then it copies according to whatever parameters you enter in there. Okay, so I select Array. I'm going to select, this is very important, that you switch off Group and Associate. So you switch this little tick box off, because if you leave it, if you get Revit to group it, it makes your life much more difficult later on. It makes sense when you're really good at Revit, but if you're not really good at Revit, it's going to confuse you. So switch off group and associate. And then I'm going to put in, how many have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to put in 5 grid lines. And it's asking me at the bottom, click to move, enter move start point. And I'm just going to say the distance of, is it the same again? Yeah, 3600. So then it's copied all of the grid lines from you. Okay? So that's kind of the benefit of the array tool, is that it will just repeat things for you. Everybody with me? Okay. So then we've got this this grid set up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, A, B, C, D, E. Yeah. Okay. Now, so what I want to do now is just start to draw the external walls. Okay, so I'm going to go into the wall tool. Just going to check, am I recording? Yes, I am. Go to the wall tool. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to just choose the most basic type of wall we have, because we don't want to put any information into it yet. So I'm going to go up and find generic 400 millimeter exterior. So a generic wall is just a wall that's got no materials assigned to it. It's just a gray computer mass. So we've got no materials in it, but it's usually a good point, a good starting point to use the generic wall, because that means you're not worrying about materials or anything. You're just setting up the geometry of the house. So once I've selected that, we get all these options along the top here. So it's telling us that the wall is going to be 4,000 millimeters high as a default. It's telling us that the center line of the wall is going to be the location line, and that's quite important. And I'll just show you what I mean. If I draw the wall from here to here, you can see that it's actually centering it on the grid line. So it's actually drawing from the center of the wall. I'm just going to do that, and then I'll do the one below and show you what I mean by that. So I do it again. It's still selected the basic wall generic. If I change the location line to, let's say, finish face exterior, which is the outside face of the wall, and I start to draw it, can anybody see the difference there? So the location line means that I'm drawing it directly on the outside of the wall. This one I'm drawing in the center of the wall. If I do that again, wall, and if I choose, let's say, finish face interior, and I draw it down here, you can see it's drawing it on the other side of the wall. So that's quite an important concept to get into your heads, because if I decide that, okay, now that I've designed my building, I want to change the build-up of the wall because I've done the calculations, I know it needs a lot more insulation. If I select this one here, which is center line justified, and I change to, let's say, let's say this one, exterior masonry lightweight concrete. The wall will change in width, but it changes in width expanding around the center. So it's actually changing the interior and the exterior of the building. Everybody with me? If, for example, I don't want to change the interior face of the building because I told my client, well, you're going to get exactly 65 square meters on this level, so we need to make sure that it doesn't move. I need to make sure that the wall that I'm using won't, come further into the building. So I need to choose the location line finish face interior. So that means when I choose the new type of wall, it will expand outwards away from there. It's kind of a simple thing, but it's quite important because it can really screw up a project if you don't get it correct. So whenever you're changing the wall type of your project, you should always come into the wall and make sure that the wall itself is set to location line, finish face, interior. That means that when you select it, it should stay, the interior face will stay in place, and then everything else will expand outwards. Yeah? I'm assuming by your silence that you understand that perfectly. Yeah, all right. So let's just switch it back to the generic 400 wall like that. Okay, so we can see on this that actually the top wall is drawn, you know, with the location line in the center of the house. The one on this side is drawn with the finished face exterior to the grid line for some reason. And the one down below is drawn with the finished face to the interior. So I'm going to do that. So wall, so I'm going to do the one on the outside first. We've got finished face exterior. I can just come up to the grid line, and wherever the location of the intersection is, I can just start to draw the wall down like this. And you can see it draws it inside the grid line. And then I'm going to change it. I'll do it again. Go to wall. I'm going to change it to finish face interior. Draw it from here to here. And it's drawn outside the grid line. Okay? Often you don't have to worry about this stuff when you start to sketch up a project because you'll modify it afterwards. You just quickly draw it up and then you'll figure out all that stuff afterwards. But because this has been drawn so precisely, I'm just using it to demonstrate what you can do. So the next thing we need to do is draw the outside wall here, and I can see the outside wall is off the grid line completely for some reason. So and that's okay. Not everything has to be on the grid line. It's just an overall organization thing. But what would be nice here is if whoever drew this gave a dimension from the grid line to the outside of the wall, so then we could be very accurate as to what that is. But let's assume it's 600 millimeters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a wall from using the grid line first of all, from here to here. And now I'm going to use the offset tool to offset it by 600 millimeters. So I'm going to select the wall, and up here, this little tool here, the little kind of double line kind of cloud-based tool, this allows us to, just like the little video says, to take a wall, or anything pretty much, and move it across by whatever we type in. So I'm going to type offset, and I'm going to change it to numerical and 600 millimeters. I don't want to copy it because we just need to move it. So when I now run the cursor on top of the wall, you can see it's giving me these blue, can you see that on the board? It's giving these blue indication lines. So it's asking which side do I want to put it on. So I'm going to click the left side, and it just shifts it out by 600 mils. Okay? Make sense? Just blank faces. You haven't had your coffee yet? That's a crime. I've already had 6 cups this morning. Okay. Okay. So on the other side, so now we've kind of drawn the box. We've drawn this box around the entire building. I'm going to make the same assumption for this wall here, is that because it's not on the grid line, I'm going to take it so that it's actually 600 millimeters off the grid line again. So what I'll do is I'll draw the basic interior walls again in the same way, and just check how they're working. I'm going to say architecture wall. This time I'm going to change it to wall center line, and I'm going to take it from down here, and I'm going to take it all the way up to here, and then we'll take it all the way across. I've actually got too many grid lines I can see. How did I make that mistake? Anyway, never mind. So this one should be over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select it. I'm going to move it, and I'm going to take it from the grid line and just move it across like that. And the rest of the walls follow along. Okay? So I'll delete that grid line there. So now I'm going to take the offset tool again. So I'm going to select this wall. I'm going to hold down Control, That means I can select both of the walls together. Offset, it's already set to 600 millimeters. Now I can just offset it in like that. So we've got pretty much more or less what the outline of the house is. If I go and look at it side by side, if I press WT, and let's I'm going to turn on the 3D view here. Let's switch off this. I press WT again. If you press WT, it will put all your open windows side by side on the screen. So we can see that pretty much this is what we've drawn in 3 dimensions. Okay. So let's just let's concentrate first of all on making this kind of unusually shaped wall in here. I assume Pia hasn't gone through modifications to the walls, you know, that are strangely shaped like this.
No,
She hasn't. Okay, so let's go through that first of all. So we have the basic overall layout. I want to break this wall now because I want to make a different type of wall here. On the plan we have, it's a much thinner wall, and it also doesn't make any sense to have an external wall going all the way around your courtyard, because when you get later on in it, you're going to start filling it up with insulation. So there's no point having an insulated courtyard. So what I can do is I'm going to select this wall, and I'm going to come up here, and there's a little button here called Split Element. So I'm going to say Split Element, and a little knife appears, and I can decide to split the wall here, and I'm going to go up and do it again here. And you can see on the 3D view that a little element appears, like a line appears, but now the wall has been split away from, the wall around the courtyard has been split away from the rest of the wall, okay? So again, I'm going to hold down Control, and I'm going to change this wall type to, what do we got? We don't have one that suits yet, so let's just change it to generic 150 interior, because there's no materials and it doesn't really make any difference. So now you can see we've got a slightly thinner wall, which is more in tune as to what an external wall might be. But maybe it's in the wrong position as related to the other wall. Maybe we want to have it on the outside face of the wall. So a good tool to remember, which is a massive time-saving tool, is the Align tool, because often you can spend ages trying to move walls around and they're not going to the correct place, and they're out by a couple of millimeters or whatever. So I'm going to select the wall here, and I'm going to come up to the Align tool, which is this button up here. And I'm just going to select Align. I'm going to select the outside face of this wall, and then I'm going to select the outside face of this wall, and you can see that it moves it into position. I can then lock it, so I get a little kind of a lock icon here. If I lock it, it means that every time I move one of these, the other one will move with it as well. I'll just repeat that on the other side. Well, on the other side it's aligned already, so let's move it out of the way first. So I'm going to select the wall, align. First you align the kind of the plane you want it to align it to, and then you press the element you want to align, and then you can lock it in position like that. Okay? I have to stop. Okay, so you can see here this wall is kind of biting into the other wall. So let's we can trim these walls together. If I press this button up here, modify, trim, you can see how much we use this modify panel. So these tiny little icons, they look a little bit scary until you understand what they do. But it's pretty much, it's quite simple what they do in effect. So this trim command, this allows us to take two lines, two walls, anything that's kind of runs on the same plane, and trim them together. So you don't have to draw all those elements. It will trim things together based on the direction that they're moving in. So if I press trim here, I can press this wall, and I can see it's already trimmed to that wall. So actually what we need to do here is just unlock this and move it out to the angle here. and then we have it more or less fixed the way we want it to be. Okay? So we didn't need to trim it in that case. Okay. So now we want to modify the shape of this wall, because we have this unusual shape, because the Utzon houses, effectively the external wall of the courtyard was modified based on where the best view was from each individual house. So all of the houses have different modeling of the external wall of the house. So especially the ones with the view of the lake up there, they have less wall than other ones. So it's an individual thing. But the way to modify that in Revit is you select the elements you want to modify. And once again, if I deselect that just to go from the start, if I select this wall, we get these new options at the top here, modify wall. So we've got edit profile, reset profile, wall opening, attach top base, detach top base. All we're going to talk about today is edit profile. If I press edit profile, we get these pink lines, and these pink lines are what you will always see in Revit when you're controlling something, when you want to change the shape of something. So we can use this view cube here. If I press front on the view cube, it will rotate the 3D view until we're looking straight on to the wall. I could then come in here to the, I'll do this again in a second. I'll then come in here to the lines, and I can just decide that I want to maybe make a shape that's something like this. Maybe I want to add a curve to it for some reason. Let's say we want to make it like that. We go back and we put a line across like that. And let's say for some reason we want the shape of the wall to be like that. I don't know why, but let's say we do. All we need to do now is make sure that the shape that we make is one continuous loop. It doesn't have any lines that overlap other lines. It doesn't have any extra lines in there, because that will cause an error in Revit. And Revit is kind of unforgiving about those types of things. So sometimes you might be making a shape like this, and by accident you draw a dot of a line on top of another line, and you can't see it at all, but you can't get the wall to work. So you have to be careful when you're doing this kind of stuff that you draw the loop correctly. The way to finish that off is we can use the trim command again. Trim. I can select this line, and you can see it trims it together at the top, and then this line, and it trims that side together. If I accept it, then the wall, if we go back to the side-on view, has been shaped like that. It's pretty simple, yeah? So let's try it again on the other side. So I'm going to select this wall, edit the profile, and we can rotate the view again to the right side. And this time around, I'm going to put like a circular opening in the wall. I don't know why. And then we'll just make some kind of crazy shape here. And let's try and line it up with the other one over there. And again, to finish it off, we just press the trim button. Trim, like that. If I press the accept, finish edit mode, go back into the 3D view, now our wall's shaped like that. It's not a designer house, but anyway, there you go.
Do you have copyright on that designer? Can I use it as well?
Yeah, no, I have copyright. Oh. You can always come back in, select the wall again, and edit the profile, and do anything with it. We could select this circle and stretch it around, make it different sizes. You could grab this, you can move it up and down. I could come in here and just say, well, I'm going to make a curve between this and this. So you can always come back in and change the shape of the wall any way you want. So that allows you to control. Now you can see how simple this one is to do in Revit. So that allows you to do that. Okay, now let me just see what I've planned. What else I've got planned to do today? Also, it's just a material. Okay. Maybe it's a bit too much, but anyway, is everybody following me so far? Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to concentrate on walls today. So let's say we also have. Let's start with this. We also have this glazing element in here. And this is just another type of wall in Revit. So once we've drawn the wall in place, I can select, and I'm going to hold down Control again and select. And over here where we have the properties, we have all the wall types that are loaded into the project. So I can just select this and I can roll down to the bottom until we get this option called curtain wall. And we have a couple of different options in here. Exterior curtain wall is just a blank piece of glass with nothing in it. But I just know that this one here, exterior storefront, which is, a kind of a standard, shop glazing, we can use to start off the curtain wall in the project here. So if I just select that, you can see that straight away we've got a glazed wall set up in the project, like that. Now there's lots of things we could do with this glazed wall. We can modify the spacing between all the elements. We could add doors, we could add windows, we could add anything we want to it, but that's a little bit more complex. So we'll just leave it like that for the moment, and we'll go back and we'll concentrate on the solid walls. But just so you can see that adding a glazed wall is very simple. It's just a case of changing it from one type of wall to another type of wall, to start off with anyway. Okay. Now, there's a couple of other things we can do with walls. We can add sweeps and reveals. So I'm going to first add a sweep. And a sweep is effectively anything that just runs along a wall like that. Here we can have a sweep. And you can see that it's put in there. It's put in on the inside, but we should be able to offset it from the wall. Yeah, let's leave that for the moment. Actually, I tell you what I'll do. I'm going to start talking about profiles and sweeps, and I think I might leave it until a little bit later till we get onto the other stuff, because otherwise it's going to be too much information. Wait a second. Let me just pause this. Okay. So what I put in there was a sweep, and a sweep is anything that runs horizontally. So in Revit you use sweeps to make handrails, window sills, window bars. All these things are sweeps that are made from profiles, because it works in such a way that you just make a shape of a sweep that you want. So you make a profile first, and then you give it a path that you want it to run along, and it will generate that pattern for you. So I'm just going to very quickly show you how to do a simple one. And for to make anything that's a little bit complex in Revit, you have to come outside the project environment and you go into the family creation environment, which is where you make all the small elements that are not specifically to do with walls, floors, stairs, and stuff like that. So I'm just going to go up to the R at the top here, and I'm going to say New Family. So I'm going to make a new family. Click on that. Once you click on New Family, you should get something like this, which is a list of template types. Now, you might not get exactly the same list here because everybody's installation seems to be doing something different this time around. But if you don't get this, anybody who doesn't get this, put their hands up. Nobody. One. Yeah, I'll give you a hand on that later. Okay, so you should have some kind of these are all templates. These are all basis files for making all these different types of elements. So we have, ducts, lighting fixtures, mechanical equipment, stair, nosings, all that kind of stuff. So these are all templates you need to use. The most important template of all is the metric profile. So this one here, metric profile.rft. You can pretty much, you use that constantly. So that's the one to really remember. So if I open up a metric profile, I just get these two crosshairs, which gives us a location point where the crosshairs intersect. And the location point is where any shape you make will be inserted into your project. So that's why it's giving you that point here. It's easier if I just show you what I mean. If I go and say line, and I get a straight line set up, I start to draw a profile. So let's say I'm going to start drawing, what will I draw? I'll draw kind of a classical cornice, like this. Let's say something like that. I'm gonna put a let's put a curve in there. Oh, wait a second. Let's put yeah, this curve in here. Start, end. Give it a little bit of a curve. Give it a bit of a line. Let's say we're making a Greek temple or something. And you can see that what I did there is I closed it. I closed the loop entirely all the way around. Otherwise it won't work. So I'm going to save this now. That's all I need to do. I've made the shape that I want. So I say save as family. I'm going to put it on the, I'll put it on my desktop. That's where I put everything always. I'm going to call it Cornice. And the reason I'm saving it as a separate file name is you can actually start to build up a library of all these different shapes. So you don't, every time you do a project, you don't have to make it each time. Yeah, you could have a library of several of them, and you can just quickly, really quickly, slap a building together. So that's the idea about saving everything. So once I've made it, all I press now is load into project. And it doesn't show us anything here, but it's been loaded into the memory of the project here. So if I go back into the 3D view, I won't say that yet. I can select this sweep we've made. I can edit it, and I can change the profile to the one we've just made. I can give it a material if I want. If I apply that now, it pops up in the position that I want, like that. So that's one way of doing it. That's like on an individual wall basis, you could do it like this. But I can also go in and modify the wall so it always displays that. So for example, if you were making an internal wall, you could make a profile that's the shape of this skirting board here. And every time you draw the wall, it will also draw the skirting board around the bottom of the wall, for example. So I'll just show you how to do that now.
So
Yeah?
what is the sweep option?
Resume. Okay, so let's say I wanted to make all the walls have this this cornice in them. Let's say we want to put it at the top, because usually this type of molding comes along the top of a classical, just like those buildings at the window there. They've got a cornice running along the top. So I'm going to select the wall. I'm going to edit it. And if I press this preview button down here at the bottom, it's giving us what the wall looks like in top view. But I can change that to what it looks like in section view. So then I can go in and edit the structure. So this button up here allows us to edit the structure. And down here we get the option to add a sweep. So up here it's telling us what the wall is made from. At the moment it's just default wall, which is just grey stuff. And we can change the thickness of it here. We can change it to whatever we want it to. I'm not going to change it now. But here I can add a sweep. So I'm going to add a sweep in here. And you can see straight away it's already asking us for the profile of the sweep. So first thing, add a sweep. And up here I can change the profile to cornice. I can change the material to, let's say, we'll change it to what, concrete or something. When it loads. I'm just going to the top here and type concrete. Whoops, concrete. Let's say concrete cast in place. It's okay. And we also get the option, if I stretch this over a little bit, to say distance from base or from top. So I'm going to say distance 0 from the top of the wall on the exterior side. And if I press OK, you can see in the preview that the cornice has now appeared at the top of the wall, like that. So I press OK again. It modifies all the walls of that type to add the cornice to it. So that makes your life very easy when you're drawing buildings that are repetitive. Is that you can add as many sweeps as you want to the wall, and it will always repeat where they go. Okay, I think we'll take a break there.